Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 150. So I just want to take a brief second to celebrate 150 episodes of this show. That means there are now 150 different spiritual and personal growth topics, healing topics that you can go back and listen to, as well as 150 guided healing meditation sessions. I go back and listen to these all the time. I find it to be so useful. And so one of the things I wanted to ask of you is that you go and follow the podcast. And I've put a link here in the video. I think it's showing up to find links on my website. You can go to paulataylorenergy.com, click on the podcast tab, and there are links to all different places, Apple, Spotify, all different places where you can listen to the podcast, because that does count toward my numbers, my ranking in the podcast. You can also rate and review the podcast anywhere you listen to it, and you can support me financially. On that page, there's a donate button to donate through PayPal. It's a really great way to revisit these topics, even if you like to interact with the video. I know I've been going live at different times, so it's a little bit harder probably to watch this live. The videos do stay on Facebook. They are featured on my page. But personally, I really like to go back and interact with the podcast. It's something I can listen to while I'm doing something else, while I'm working in my medical job. Sometimes if I'm just doing some computer stuff, I can go back and listen. If I'm working around the house, I can put some headphones in, go back and listen. So even if you prefer to interact with me on Facebook, I would love it if you would go and follow the podcast, rate the podcast, support the podcast, share it with a friend. It really is a labor of love. And I was thinking about it this morning. I had seen this clip of, it was some sort of like a psychologist or psychiatrist on TikTok. And she was talking about working with people who are neurodivergent and how a lot of times people come in to see a therapist and the therapist will say, "Oh, you're so self-aware. Like, what are you doing here?" And that it's important for people who are neurodivergent. A lot of us are actually external processors, meaning we need to talk things out to fully process them. And that's honestly, that's part of what this show is for me. I tell you the stories of what's going on to illustrate a point, but it also helps me solidify it. There's an old saying, I think it's see one, do one, teach one, something like that. So this is kind of a little bit of that process for me as I'm working through my own stuff. It allows me to kind of teach what I'm learning and share it with you. So thank you so much. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you've been here for all 150 episodes, I guarantee you there are some really good nuggets of wisdom if you go back and listen to some of the prior episodes. Some of them kind of work out in a series. Some of them I'll just look at a topic. That sounds really interesting to me. I want to listen to that again. And at this point, it's been so long that I don't actually remember some of them, and I channel the meditation. So sometimes it's like hearing them for the first time. So thank you again. 150 episodes is a great accomplishment. Thank you for being here with me for that. So today we are going to talk about denial, protection, and freedom. And I decided to entitle this episode, Denial, What You Don't Know Can Hurt You. But there's a little bit of nuance to that. We're going to go into that. And I am going to go into a little bit of a story, and it's a little bit of another meandering ADHD tale, but stay with me because this is an important topic. And I wasn't sure I was even going to do a show this week. I didn't really have a topic, but there's been a lot of stuff going on. And what happens for me sometimes is that, like, right at the last minute, it solidifies in my mind as like, oh, here's the crux of the matter. Like there's all these different things going on. And then here is kind of the storyline that leads to this understanding that will be helpful for me to share with people. So I want to start by talking about denial and how denial is linked to protection. So what is denial? Pretty simple concept. Denial is just something about ourselves usually, or a situation that we're not ready to look at, we're not ready to see. And from a spiritual excavation standpoint, that is one of the reasons I talk about excavation. I talk about layers. So you might be excavating a layer. So there's something under the surface. If we're going with this excavation, I like the archaeological dig. We'll go into that a little more, but let's imagine we're digging into the earth. What's under the earth, we don't know what that is, right? We have to dig it up to find out. And so the not knowing what it is that denial part. There's something here. I think it might be causing some issues. I'm not sure what it is. Full denial is like, oh, everything's fine. There's nothing here. There's nothing for me to dig up. There's nothing there. There's no archaeological finds in this dig. I'm just going to move on. That would be kind of full denial. But what happens a lot of times is that we sort of have an awareness that maybe there's something's affecting our behavior. We don't feel good in our lives. We feel like we're getting easily triggered. We don't know why. That's kind of this like beginning of awareness, but we still don't know what it is. We've got to dig down, right? And we do this one layer at a time. And there's a reason we do this one layer at a time. And I was in a class yesterday and somebody said something and it was like, I got a little light bulb over my head and I was like, oh. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the actual physical energetic anatomy of denial a little bit too, because this is where this kind of comes in and ties into some of the other things I've been talking about recently. So what this person said yesterday was that denial can be useful because denial is actually protection. Denial is, I'm not ready to see this, and so I'm not going to look at it yet. I'm going to protect myself from whatever this trauma is or this feeling is, whatever it is that I would be excavating. And I never really quite thought about it in those terms before, but all of a sudden, like I said, kind of a light bulb went off in my head and I was like, oh, because I've been talking a lot recently about protection and this idea that what served as protection in our energetic bodies at a certain point is no longer protective. It actually becomes something that causes us to have less freedom. It causes issues. It causes tenseness. It causes pain and discomfort. It causes dis-ease. So as soon as she said that, like in my mind, a light bulb went off about the physical energetic anatomy of denial. So I'm going to talk about this story that I shared last week that kind of helps illustrate this to make it a little less abstract. But just in a more abstract sense, this idea is at a certain age, usually really young in life, but it can happen at any point, there's something that we're not ready to deal with. Maybe it was a trauma that happened to us. Maybe it's an ancestral pattern of holding in the body energetically. There's something that we're not ready to deal with. And so the denial is our protection. It says, I'm not going to deal with this right now. And our body will actually build energetic patterns to support that denial. And so we end up with these kind of patterns of holding or tension in the physical body, in the energetic body, that start out as protection, but eventually sort of get out of control. You could think of it kind of like an autoimmune disease. Like you've got this immune system that's meant to fight things off. If it gets too active, it can actually cause problems. That's kind of what happens over time with denial. We have this little area that's being protected. We're in denial about it, but that protection continues to solidify in the body to the point where it starts causing us usually physical dis-ease, physical discomfort, physical pain. And that is when we usually finally look at this and go like, oh, why does my shoulder hurt all the time? I don't understand. I get massage, I exercise, I do all these things, but still my shoulder hurts all the time. That is a good sign that there is a pattern of protection or denial that's being stored in that area of the body that you probably need help releasing. That's the other thing. This is definitely something that you probably need help from a professional body worker, energy worker, somatic worker to help you release, because patterns of denial are held for a very long time in the body. I have one that I was born with, and we're going to talk about that. I talked about it last week. But the other thing I want to mention about this is one of the reasons I love this idea of an archaeological dig, because denial is protection. It is serving a protective purpose. And so we have to be careful about how we unearth it. That's why I'm suggesting that a lot of times we probably need help. We need the support of a professional to kind of unearth this pattern of protection and to help release it from our physical body, from our energetic body, because it's been there for so long. So if you think about, this is why I love the archaeological dig idea. So we don't go into an archaeological dig with a giant backhoe and just pick up all the dirt, because we would disturb all of these amazing, fantastic artifacts that we're looking for. We're looking for these archaeological treasures. We're not going to go in with a backhoe and just dig out the whole area and risk damaging these little artifacts that could be very old. They could be very, what is the word I'm looking for? Fragile. That's the word I'm looking for. So what we do in an archaeological dig, if you've ever watched one, it's really interesting because, I mean, they're digging with like hand trowels. They're using brushes. They're being very, very careful and very sort of intentional about the way that they're digging. They're going to dig one little grid up and be very gentle about it and then move on to the next because they don't want to disturb the artifacts. So if you think about denial as this idea of there's these layers of denial and what's within these layers are whatever we're protecting. There was a trauma that happened to us. There's a feeling we don't want to deal with, whatever it is. If we just go in with a big backhoe and it's always interesting to me when I talk to people about healing and specifically energetic healing, but even somatic body healing, physical healing. You know, sometimes people will come to me as a massage therapist and they're like, oh, I've had this pain in my back for 40 years. I want you to fix it. I want it to go away. And the first thing I always have to tell them is that we are not going to get rid of a pattern of holding that you've had for 40 years in 60 minutes. It's just not going to happen. Even if I had the ability to do that, which I might be able to take my backhoe and dig up everything that's being held in the back, I would not be doing a service to that person because I would destroy all of these little artifacts. I would dig up all of this stuff that they're probably not yet ready to look at. There is a reason why we are intentional and conscious about how much we dig up at a time. So the first thing I always do when I'm educating my clients is that I explain, I don't want this to take the rest of your life. I don't expect you to come and see me every week forever. That's not what I'm looking for. I am looking to empower you to be able to be free of this and to be able to do a lot of this work on your own. But something that's been a pattern for many years is not something that we can get rid of in a single session. It's going to take a little bit of time. And it is because we are going to be intentional and careful. We are going to spiritually excavate in that archaeological dig manner. We're going to dig a little bit up. Okay, let's see, this right shoulder is really bothering you. Let's see what's underneath that. What's the emotion that's being held there? What's the memory? What's the trauma? What's going on underneath the physical pain? Because there's always something going on underneath the physical pain. That is why I became an energy worker. And that is why I use energy work even with people who come to me for physical things, because that is the only thing that is effective in the long term. But it takes a little bit of time, right? Because we want to be careful. We want to be controlled. We want to work on things as we're ready. So that was this idea that was introduced yesterday that I thought was so interesting about the fact that sometimes it's okay to be in denial. If you're not ready to look at something, that's okay. It doesn't say anything bad about you. There's no judgment there. Now, it's probably causing some issues. So at a certain point, you might decide, especially with help, with support, that you want to kind of take that leap of faith. You want to take that leap of courage and look at this area, but you don't have to. You don't have to push yourself into something you're not ready to do. And that is something that I think especially new healers, new body workers sometimes don't recognize. They're like, I can see how to fix this and I want to do it. It's not always appropriate. You've got to make sure that the person you're working with is ready for that. And as the person who's doing the work or receiving, you want to be aware of that as well. It's tempting in the culture we live in. Oh, I want a magic pill. Just give me something that will make this go away. Because we don't want to do that work because it's difficult and it can be scary. But the reward is so amazing. The reward of this is freedom. That's kind of why I said we're going to talk about denial, protection, and freedom. So let me tell you my story to kind of illustrate this, make it a little less abstract. And I think it'll help, again, kind of illustrate what I'm talking about. And it helps me process. So it's kind of a kill two birds with one stone. That sounds violent. It's kind of a celebrate two birds with one story. I don't know. So I mentioned last week that I was working with some issues in my solar plexus. And I talked about how I've been talking around this myself on the show for a few episodes before that. That is part of that denial. that is part of that sort of slow step into awareness. Like there's something wrong here. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm not ready to jump right in. So I'm going to get the lay of the land. I'm going to surveil. Yes, I'm going to surveil my archaeological dig site, right? I'm going to take a survey. I'm going to look and say, okay, what's this before I jump in and start digging, because I'm not sure what I'm going to find in it, and it might be really scary. And the deeper you go with spiritual excavation, like I've been doing this for a long time, the older and scarier the stuff you find tends to be. Now, the good part about that is that you're very experienced in doing the work. So I don't get scared away by things that much anymore, but I also understand I need to be gentle with myself. So it took me a little time to kind of surveil my surroundings and figure out, like, where am I going to dig here? What am I looking for? What might I find? And we never know. That's the power of denial, is that it's protected us so much that we don't know it's there. Now, I could tell you, and I've talked about this, I've mentioned this on the show multiple times in the past, that I have this sort of density in my belly. And we've talked a lot about the cave, the solar plexus, the sacral chakra. This is coming up for a lot of people right now. And this idea of protection that no longer serves is coming up for so many people. So many of my clients are dealing with this, not necessarily in the same place, but this story will kind of help illustrate how powerful this is. And why do we want to do this? Essentially, what's the point? If the denial is kind of protecting me, like maybe I never want to look at it. What's the reason I would look at it? And reason number one is usually that the discomfort has gotten to a point that you can't ignore it anymore. And that's this density in my belly. I had that surgery last year. My endometriosis is gone, which has been amazing, but it's also given me more awareness of what's going on in here, because I don't have that chronic pain that was kind of kicking me out of my body. We talked about that a few weeks ago. So as I've been re-embodying in my solar plexus, in my sacral area, in this beautiful belly cave, I've been realizing, like, there's a lot of density here. There's this energy that's not moving. There's this holding. There's this stagnation. What is this here for? And it took me a while, again, to get to it, because it's been there for so long. And I talked about this last week. When I started kind of finally digging down, sort of working through this, I realized, oh, this is protecting something underneath it. That was that denial. My body has built energetic protection around this little black fist of energy that I didn't want to see, that I didn't want to experience, that I didn't want to look at. And I mentioned when I talked about this before, that this is something that felt like it was actually inherited. It was a generational pattern of energetic holding. I have an idea about this, and maybe I'll mention it, and it might be really weird, but it might kind of just plant a seed of thought, because I think everybody has this. And I actually think that this is kind of what some people in the Christian tradition might term original sin, which I do not ascribe to that sort of thinking around it. But I think that all of us come into the world with this little bit of self-hatred, which I couldn't think of anything more original sin than that. And this is something that's just sort of been passed down generation to generation. This little, like, core of ourselves that thinks we're not worthy, that we don't belong, that we don't deserve love, we're unlovable. And that is what I uncovered. So I started digging, what is this energy? And I started working on it in my own belly. Like, why is this so dense? And why can't I get it to move? And why is it so stuck? That was the denial part. That was the protection I built around this, because I didn't know what to do with this thing. I was born with it. I kind of think we all are. And it's not something that's pleasant. It doesn't feel good. So we start to build layers of protection around that. And that looks different in different people. For some people, it looks like maybe holding weight. For some people, it might look like being not able to gain weight. For some people, it might manifest as GI symptoms, as menstrual symptoms, anything that's kind of going on in the belly. The thing about the belly is that all of your main organs, aside from your brain and heart, lungs, all of your digestive organs, most of the organs for detoxification, all live in the belly. So if you've got an imbalance in the belly, you've got this protection, this denial, this pattern of holding or stagnancy or whatever it is, it's going to cause physical symptoms in the body. And it's also, I think, one of the reasons why GI symptoms are so difficult to treat, because the underlying pattern here is so deep-seated. It is something, again, that has been there for most of us since birth. So I found this area. I said it looked like a little black fester. That's kind of how I experienced it. And it was my self-hatred when I asked it, what is it? Because if you ask anything in your field, it has to tell you what it is. What are you? I'm your self-hatred. Where did you come from? I've always been here. That's kind of the answer. You were born with me. So then it was like, okay, how do I start working with this? So I've been working with kind of sending love to that area, because what is the antidote for hate or fear? It's love. What is the antidote for me not feeling worthy? It's me starting to feel like I am worthy. And all of the energy that I send is love. Reiki is unconditional love. It is universal life force energy, chi, ki, prana, all of that. What we are made of energetically is unconditional love. So I started working with this density in my belly. I started sending energy to this area, asked this area, what are you supposed to look like? Because the other thing is that the core of our being is here in the solar plexus, especially of our physical being. The seat of the soul, the seat of kind of the spirit, tends to be more like in the heart space, but we're in a physical body. So how do we connect our soul, our heart space to our physical body? That's the solar plexus. It's kind of the battery that runs the physical body, is how this came to me, or the warp core that runs your Enterprise, if you're a Star Trek nerd like I am. And that's kind of how I first started thinking of this. This is like a battery. This is a warp core. This is something that runs that is supposed to run the functions of my body so that they function well. But also, this is the seat. This is the generator of your self-worth, of your will, of your personal power. I mean, this is all wrapped up in that solar plexus chakra area. So then I started to see it as a golden snitch from Harry Potter, and the snitch is this little golden ball with wings that flies around, and they kind of chase it when they're playing Quidditch, which is a broom witch game. Not important. If you're not a Harry Potter person, don't worry about it. But it was important to me to get a sense of what is this supposed to look like? What is this supposed to feel like? What am I supposed to get from this area? And it's like this sense of power, this sense of kind of this pulsation of this battery that's running not only my physical body, but also making me feel good about myself, making me feel confident, making me feel worthy, and to the point where I really feel it, that I'm really embodying it. And so I want to share a little bit of a story. I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but I want to share a little bit about what's been happening since I've been working with this, because this is the freedom that I'm talking about. So I'm going to tell you a story about what happened yesterday, and then a little bit about kind of what I see reflected back to me, because that's the thing about this work. This work is reflected back to you in how you experience the world and what happens to you in the world. There is a very practical component to this work that I always want to stress, because some people might not be at the point where they feel like it's important to feel what's going on in their body or to feel this energy. But there is an absolute practical application to what happens to you in the physical reality when you work with this stuff. So first, let's talk about how I started to experience freedom. I've been working on this area. I feel the density kind of moving. There's movement in this area. I feel this battery sort of powering up, which has been amazing. Then yesterday I went to this class, and we were, it's amazing. Also, I'm going to say amazing 50 times. It's called Equanimity, and it's run by my friend Barbara Collier here in Tucson. You can look it up. People come from all over to do this work. So she's a somatic experiencing therapist, and she works with her partner Jeannie and around horses, working with horses to do this somatic experiencing work, to kind of re-embody, to learn what it's like to occupy your body. And that's kind of where we started yesterday with this work. So our experiential exercise yesterday seems really kind of deceptively simple. And it's funny because until I processed it out loud, I didn't realize how profound it had been for me. I just kind of had the experience. So they had the horses here, and we were talking about this idea of relational safety and how do the horses know they can trust you, and how do you know you can trust the horses, and how do you introduce yourself to them, because they're not verbal. You can't just say, hey, I'm Paula. There's an energetic introduction that has to happen so the horse begins to understand that they can trust you. So the exercise we were doing was just holding the rope that the horse was kind of haltered with a rope, just very gently, because this is all around consent. We were talking about that. And sort of just moving the rope around in a way that the horse could kind of feel your energy and knew that you were not a threat, that you were not going to hurt the horse. But part of it, at one point, the direction she gave was this idea of that the energy from your solar plexus is how the horse really knows who you are. That's the essence of you, essentially. And so she directed me, instead of kind of moving the rope, to just hold the rope and then direct my solar plexus energy kind of through the rope to the horse so the horse could get to know me, essentially. And the experience I had while I was doing that was, first of all, the fact that I could even do it, that I could come into my solar plexus and send energy and be calm and not feel this sort of tension and density and tightness and that fist that was always there of self-hatred, but more like this golden snitch, this kind of battery that's sort of gently fluttering its wings and coming to life, and this energy that's moving, and I can send that energy through the rope, so that all the work I've already done really helped with that. But then what I felt was I could feel the horse kind of relax, and then I could feel the horse send energy back kind of through from her solar plexus into mine. And there was this beautiful sense of freedom, of flow, of this discovery that I'm not bound up in that area anymore, that I've moved that energy of denial that was no longer protecting me, that at one point was, and that I've got an actual flow of energy in this space now. And it was such a beautiful gift to receive. And I didn't really, again, it just sort of happened, and I was like, oh, well, that was cool. But then when she asked if we wanted to share with the group, I thought, oh, well, this might be something that I should say. I should talk about my experience. And as I shared it, it was like, wow, that was actually really profound. That was the first time that I've experienced kind of being fully in my body in this cave area, in this solar plexus, felt safe, felt comfortable, felt comfortable, and then felt that reflected back to me from another being in such a beautiful way. So that is the freedom I'm talking about, where regardless of where this is in your body, it's causing tension, it's causing discomfort, dis-ease, it's causing physical symptoms, it's causing functional issues. You know, my digestion's not working right, or my lungs aren't working right, or whatever it is. The freedom, first of all, is the freedom of releasing that protection, of allowing movement in that space, and finding some physical relief. I don't feel so dense and bound up in my belly. It's not so bloated. It was getting more and more and more and more bloated, which originally I thought was endometriosis, which was not helping. But then this far out of surgery, I was like, well, why do I still have this bloating? It's all the energy, it's all the density of energy that was stuck there. And as I've moved that, my bloating is actually to the point where people are like, wow, you look totally different. Like, it looks like you're losing weight. They haven't termed it that way, which I appreciate, because I try not to deal with weight stuff, but just your body shape looks different. You look stronger, you look different. So that's one of the ways this has been reflected back, is an actual physical change, better function in my digestion, sort of better feeling in my body that's reflected in the way people see me, that's reflected in the way probably I carry myself. But here's the really big thing that I wanted to point out, because again, this work has practical applications. So a few weeks ago, I mentioned that I was really frustrated, that I was very busy. I was working all the time, and yet I kind of felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. I jumped into this new space, and I'm having to support the space financially. I'm still working in my medical job, and it's just been a lot. And I kind of felt like I was just like running on a hamster wheel and not really getting anywhere, sort of barely covering my bills, and then having to work to kind of bring income in, and then also just feeling sort of burnt out and tired. So since I started doing this work with my solar plexus, since I started loosening this energetic density, allowing it to release, reigniting my battery, my bookings have gone up like 300%. People are booking with me more and more and more. I thought December was going to be slow because of the holidays. I've had more bookings this month than I've ever had in the year that I've been in a physical space, for sure. One-on-one bookings, especially, like people coming to me. And why is that? Because I am now sending energy out into the world that says, I'm ready for this. I know my worth. I know that I can help people. And this little fist of self-doubt, of self-hatred, of self-unworthiness, as that transforms into the opposite of that, I know my worth, I know I am loved, I know I am lovable, that reflects out in a way that has practical applications, in a way that I can let go of the scarcity worries that I had about, am I going to be able to support this space? And without doing anything differently, I haven't done anything differently. Actually, I have an ad that hasn't even started. It starts in January. Done nothing differently. In terms of how I'm marketing or anything like that. This is all an internal shift for me. This freedom that I've opened up. All of a sudden, I have people coming to me more and more and more for help on the same thing. And that it's such an interesting reflection. And again, it might reflect differently in your life. Again, people are saying that you look different, you seem different, you seem calmer, you seem more confident. I'm so excited to see what you do next. These are the kinds of comments I'm getting. Your body looks different. Your belly looks less bloated, keep in mind, these are not people that are just saying this. These are people I've been working with on this belly stuff. Other body workers like, yeah, your belly looks, like it's less bloated. I can see the change in your body as I bring this up. These are not unsolicited body comments, which I appreciate and would never offer, hopefully. This work has real world applications. And so while denial starts out as a protective process, and you might be in a place where you're not ready, I did a lot of work before I got to this deep excavation. This has been here my whole life. And I had to excavate layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer and build the skills. That's the other reason I call it spiritual tool building. As you do this excavation work, you build tools. Every time I see someone, I send them away with a tool. Whether they use it or not, I have no control over that, but I want to offer you a tool because my role is to teach you how to do this work yourself. Absolutely to support you, absolutely to be the professional that you can come to, but I don't want people to have to see me for the rest of their lives. I want people to learn how to do this on their own. So even with massage, I try to send somebody, I don't want to overwhelm you. Here's one tool you can work on. It might be a physical tool, it might be a stretch for the pectorals or something. It's one tool. And if you keep coming back and we keep working through things, pretty soon that one tool turns into 20 tools. And then pretty soon it's like, I think I'm good. Maybe I'll see you next month. Maybe I'll see you in 6 to 8 weeks, whatever. Maybe I'll just call you when I need you. That is the work I am trying to do with people. But it's a reflection of the work I do with myself. So as you're ready to confront your denial and recognize that what was once protective is now actually a cage, it is now binding you up, it is now making you less free. As you do that work, you invite freedom, you invite expansion and clarity and harmony, and that is reflected back to you practically in your world. Things start to go better for you. You have quote unquote better luck. You have these quote unquote coincidences that are really synchronicities. You start meeting people who uphold. I've met such amazing people this last year, like my friend Barbara, who with Jeannie runs Equanimity. Check it out. It's amazing. You start meeting people who see that worth in you and you see the worth in them. Excuse me. And then again, just like I had with the horse, you start to have this real exchange of energy, not this mask that we feel like we have to wear socially, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm good. Oh, nice to see you, blah, blah, blah. This is such a much deeper level of relating, and is something that we are all craving, whether we realize it or not. But when we're in that space of having so much protection around us, so much denial, we can't be authentic. We can't relate authentically until we start to get through some of that. And the deeper we get, the more authentic we get, the deeper our relationships get. The more real we can be, and the more real other people can be with us, and the more rewarding that is, the more joy we have. I was saying yesterday, we kind of talked, and then we had a little break, and I went across the parking lot to use the bathroom. As I was walking back, it was such a beautiful day. It was like unseasonably warm, and the horses were there, and there was just this open sky. And I had this urge to run across the parking lot and do a cartwheel. Just this like childlike, playful joyfulness that I tend to be a really serious person, and I forget how important play is. And just having that moment of that freedom, of my body feeling like joy and wanting to move in this way that I haven't done, in years, I can't think of a better reward. I can't. I mean, and also having all of the things reflected, less scarcity, more abundance, all of these other things. This work has real life applications, and even though it's scary, it is so worth it. And you don't have to jump right into excavating everything. Start slow, reach out for help, delve into it, dip your toe into it. And even that, you will start to get that. It's a reward cycle. You will start to feel better, and then you want to do more, and then you will start to do better. And pretty soon you are just fully immersed in this, and you are becoming re-embodied, and you are becoming re-empowered, and you are starting to recognize that you are lovable, and that you are worthy, and that you deserve all good things. So in today's meditation, we're going to keep it fairly simple. What we're going to do, we're going to do a simple body scan. I say simple because we're just going to kind of slowly scan through the body. What we're looking for is those areas of denial, of protection, of dis-ease, of discomfort. And we're just kind of reacquainting ourselves with our body. And so as you scan through the body, like I might get to the belly and notice like, oh, yep, there's still some holding there. There's still some work to be done. And that's okay. That's the other thing. It's okay we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to get to the bottom of that pit of self-discovery. I just don't think it exists. But the deeper we get, the more work we do, the more access we have to that expansion and freedom, to that clarity and harmony, to healing. So we're just going to scan through. We're going to pick maybe one area to focus on, to just breathe into, to send some love into, just very gently. We're not doing deep trauma work today. That's something that's best done one-on-one, and you can always reach out to me for one-on-one bookings. I do work virtually and in person with people. But these group healing sessions, these group meditations are a great way to dip your toe into the water, to kind of be called into this. And you could work, today there will be 150 of these. So if you're not in a place to work with someone one-on-one, you've got all of these tools that I have been giving you for 150 episodes to work with yourself. But if you do get to a point where you feel like you need help, find somebody. It really makes a difference. I see people, I'm a professional at this, and I see other professionals to have support with this work. You cannot do, especially the deepest stuff, completely on your own. It's just so wonderful to have someone hold space for you to have a realization, for you to feel safe, for you to be able to release some of that protection while someone else holds space for you. So let's meditate together. So for this meditation, find a comfortable position. You can lie down, you can sit up. whatever position you choose to be in, make sure that you are supported, that you are comfortable. If you're sitting up, make sure that you're sitting nice and straight, or you have something to lean against. It's nice to have your feet on the floor, or if you're sitting on the ground, maybe elevate your hips on a cushion. If you're lying down, maybe you put something under your knees, under your neck. Just make sure that you feel supported and safe in whatever physical position that you choose. We're going to begin, as we almost always do, with 3 deep oxytocin breaths. We're going to breathe in through the mouth, really in through the nose, really let the belly float out. And then we're going to breathe out through the mouth, using that audible ha sound from high to low, vibrating the nerves that vibrate the vagus nerve, telling the body that we're safe, telling the body that it's okay to come into that rest and digest mode. So 3 to 5 of those, breathing in through the nose. As you're breathing deeply here, you might begin to notice some areas of discomfort in your body. If you'd like to very gently move around, you can. Just maybe circling wrists and ankles a little bit, maybe moving your neck back and forth really gently here. We're not stretching. We're not going for any kind of further discomfort. We're just moving maybe 20% of your capacity here. You can shrug your shoulders a couple times, maybe rotate your torso or your hips, or just stay still and continue to breathe deeply. You can use that oxytocin breath anytime throughout this meditation. It's great to release energy, to release pent-up emotion. Breathing out through the mouth is always a good way to release, even if you don't add that audible ha sound. So now coming still, we're going to scan through the body. And as we scan down through the body, we're going to invite that crown chakra to open, the top of the head. And we're going to invite that beautiful chi, ki, prana, source, unconditional love energy in through each area of the body. So as we scan through the body, we're also offering the body some love and energy. And you may find that some areas of discomfort will find relief just from that gentle invitation of bringing light and love into the body. And as you're scanning, I want you to be aware of just anything that catches your attention. Maybe you're drawn to the left shoulder, maybe you're drawn to the chest or the belly, and just notice the sensation. We're going to come back to one of these areas, and remember, you can repeat this as many times as you'd like. So choose an area that feels good to you today to focus on as we get to that point. Maybe you want to choose something of mild to moderate discomfort and then work up to something that feels a little bit heavier, a little bit more scary. There's no need to rush into that. This is a gentle practice. So begin by allowing the top of the head to open, that crown chakra. You can imagine a little door opening. You can imagine the petals of a flower opening. Whatever imagery works for you here, or just invite with intention that space to open, calling in love and light through the top of the head. And let's pause here inside the head, scanning through the brain, noticing how the brain feels without judgment. Maybe you notice some areas of discomfort. Maybe your brain feels really busy. Inviting that love and light into the brain as we scan through it. Just noticing, releasing any judgments here. Scanning now into the jaw. This is an area where we tend to hold a lot of tension and we forget that we're holding tension here. So just noticing, how does your jaw feel? How does that area around your jaw and your cheeks feel? The front of your face? How does the rest of your head feel as you scan through? Inviting that beautiful love and light in through the face, in through the jaw. Coming now into the neck and the throat, such a vulnerable area, an area that tends to get choked with emotion. with fear around expression. Just noticing, how does your throat feel? How does your neck feel? Maybe you feel tension in the muscles of your neck. Maybe your throat feels a little sore or dry. Again, just noticing here and inviting that beautiful love and light down into the neck, down into the throat. Coming now into the tops of the shoulders, just focusing on the tops of the shoulders, that area where we tend to hold so much tension. Noticing how it feels here, inviting that love and light into the top of the shoulders. Noticing that there might be a shift just by inviting that flow into this space. And if not, that's fine. Let go of any judgments around that. Coming now into the left arm, we're going to do one arm at a time here because they are different. Scanning down through the left shoulder, the left upper arm, you might notice that there's actually a lot of holding or tension in the arm that you're just not aware of because you've never really focused on it before. Coming into the left elbow, into the forearm, down through the wrist and hand, bringing that beautiful love and light down through the arm as you do this exercise. But also noticing we use our arms and our hands a lot. There might be a little bit of stickiness. There might be a little bit of emotional holding, of physical tension in the arms and hands. And that's okay, letting go of judgment there. Coming now to the right shoulder, scanning down through the right shoulder, the right upper arm, just noticing what you feel here, into the right elbow, down through the right forearm and wrist, into the hand, all the way out to the fingers. Again, bringing this beautiful love and light down through this area as you scan. And just noticing, maybe there's a little bit of tightness or tension. Maybe there's a feeling of not getting flow all the way to the fingers. That's okay. Release judgment. Just notice it. Invite that beautiful love and light to flow all the way down through both of your hands, through the fingers now. You might notice your hands heating up. That's that beautiful energy coming into your hands. Directing your attention now at the upper chest, just below the neck, the top of the chest. What does it feel like as you scan down into the center of the chest, into your physical heart, into that energetic heart space? There tends to be a lot of emotion here. Sometimes it's emotion we're not ready to see. You can feel sometimes as you scan into this area, some of that emotion bubble up. That's okay. You're in a safe space. You can allow that to come up. Release it with some beautiful oxytocin breaths. Just inviting that beautiful love and light into the chest now, all the way down to the center of the chest. And then focusing on the upper back, below the shoulders, around the shoulder blades, scanning down another area where we tend to have a lot of discomfort, a lot of tension. Letting that beautiful love and light flow down the chest and the upper back. Bringing your awareness now to that cave, the beginning of that cave, that solar plexus just below the chest. You might even find that your nice heated up hands want to go to this area as you scan. Maybe you're even brushing down the belly a little bit, just scanning through the upper belly. Noticing how it feels here. You might feel a bit of a vacuum. Most of us don't spend a lot of awareness in this space. We don't spend time bringing awareness to the space. So if you don't feel anything, that's okay. Just maybe put your hands there, send your awareness there, and just call that love and light down into the upper belly here, into that solar plexus. I'm assisting you with some beautiful Reiki through this transmission. And again, letting go of judgments, just noticing how this area feels. Coming to the corresponding area in the back, kind of the mid-back area, just behind the belly. How does that area feel? Sending this love and light into that area of the back. Coming down now to the sacral area, the pelvis, just above that bowl of the pelvic bones, the lower belly. How does it feel in this space? This might be another space you're not used to connecting with. That's okay. Bringing this love and light down into the lower belly. Noticing how that feels. Noticing any shifts. Letting go of any judgments that come up. Breathing deeply out through the mouth to release any emotions that come up here. Focusing now on the low back, the other side of that low belly, down to the tailbone. Sending this love and light down, noticing any areas of tension or discomfort. Coming into the hips now, this is an area where we hold a lot of emotions, just like the jaw. So let's focus on the left hip to start with. One hip at a time, just noticing you might feel a lot of tightness here. You might feel a lot of tension. You might feel some discomfort. You might not feel anything. This is all fine. Just breathing in through the nose, releasing anything through the mouth as needed, sending this love and light into the left hip, letting it flow down now into the left thigh. This is definitely an area that we don't necessarily bring awareness to. You might even put your left hand on that thigh, kind of brushing down, just to help your awareness come to this area physically. When you do pay attention, you might notice there's a lot of tension here. We also hold a lot of emotion in the thighs. You might notice a feeling of density, of not being able to feel anything. All of this is okay. Just reacquainting ourselves with the body as we scan. Sending that love and light down all the way to the knee now, focusing on the left knee. If you can reach it, if it's accessible to you, you can put your hand on your knee. That might not feel good, so just directing awareness. The knees are our center of support, and they do a lot of work for us physically and emotionally. So you might feel some pain in your knee. You might feel some discomfort, some tightness. Just sending that love and light into the left knee, down now through the shin, through the calf. Again, an area that we don't often connect with, so it might take a moment. You might not be able to connect, and that's okay. Just set the intention to send this love and light down through the calf, through the shin, all the way to the ankle and the foot. Feeling the foot now on the earth if it's touching the ground. Being particularly aware of the sole of your foot, the bottom of your foot, maybe noticing that there's a lot of potential for energetic flow there, maybe directing some energy into that part of the foot, helping it open. Coming now into the right hip, you might put your hands there. Again, lots of tension, lots of holding of emotions in this area. There's no need to get really fully into that. We're just sending some love and light into the right hip here, noticing how it feels coming down into the right thigh. Again, you might find it useful to put your hand on your right thigh. You might have a difficult time connecting. That's okay. Just set the intention to send that love and light down through the right thigh. Coming into that right knee, again, an area that we tend to have quite a bit of discomfort and even pain, directing that love and light to the right knee. Coming down into the right shin and calf, sending that love and light all the way down into that right ankle, into that right foot, and again focusing on the bottom of that right foot, the sole of your right foot. There's a little chakra there that wants to open, that wants to have some energetic flow. Maybe this love and light triggers some flow here, and if not, that's completely fine. So take a moment and just notice any shifts in your body, in your emotional state. Maybe take a nice deep oxytocin breath, kind of releasing anything that's no longer serving. And then bringing your awareness to one of those areas you scanned through that was asking for your attention. Maybe placing your hand there if it's accessible, or just bringing your awareness to that part of the body. Notice that your hands might be quite warm now. That's that beautiful energy, that Reiki flowing through your hands. So use that. Even if let's say you're focused on your foot, you can just kind of direct your hand down at the foot. And I'm assisting you here, sending some energy through this transmission. just set the awareness, the intention here to bring love to this space. You're not necessarily looking for a big shift. You're not setting any expectations. Try to release any judgments that come up. You don't even need to know what this energy is. You're just directing love to this specific part of the body, to this area of energetic protection that's maybe no longer serving. Perhaps this is protection that it's time to release, and you don't have to do that now. You don't have to do that alone. But just sending love to this area begins to loosen some of that tension, some of that holding or stagnancy. Spending a moment here as we step into some sound, just directing love and light to this area of your body. Say I ho, say how ho, say how ho. Taking a few deep breaths here in through the nose, out through the mouth, setting the intention to release any energy that's no longer serving you here for the highest good. Spending a last moment directing energy to this area, knowing that you can come back and repeat this for any other part of the body as needed. And then just releasing that flow of energy very gently. Maybe bringing your hands together at the heart. Maybe placing your hands on your heart. Or just allowing your hands to relax in your lap, whatever feels good here. Just setting the intention to come back to the rest of your day or evening. Or if you're in a safe space and you'd like to drift off to sleep, this is a beautiful time to begin to drift. If you're coming back to the rest of your day or evening, just allowing yourself to come back, giving yourself some gratitude for having the courage to step into this practice, to confront a little bit of denial in a gentle way. Begin to slowly move your body, maybe move your wrists and hands, circle the ankles, maybe move your neck, just coming back to this present moment, getting ready to come back out of this state of meditation, but bringing with you this ease, this flow state, bringing with you this relaxation. Sat Nam. The truth of your identity is that you deserve flow and freedom, and you can find it. You are loved, and you are worthy. Take one last nice deep breath in through the nose, sigh it out through the mouth, maybe add that audible ha sound. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a beautiful, free-flowing rest of your week, and I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesdays.